Hi, my name's Lauren Heary, and I'm talking about an episode of Scrubs entitled My Life in Four Cameras. This show shows some of the main differences between single camera shows and multi-camera shows. It does so by taking two very serious subjects that are focused on in the single camera mode and showing how they would be represented if they lived in a multi-camera world. The first situation deals with a patient who just so happens to be Charles James, a creator of Cheers. He has been diagnosed with lung cancer, and JD and Elliot wonder how he even made it this long. But when life switches to the multi-camera mode, his life-threatening condition doesn't seem to be anything more than a laugh. And if you couldn't tell, there was a laugh track to help you out. The multi-camera show is a fantasy land, and JD and Elliot take Charles James on a hot air balloon ride and to a carnival, some of the things he wished he did before he died. When they return back to the hospital, JD and Elliot realize that they switched up his medical forms and that James Charles actually has lung cancer, not Charles James, and they all have a great big old laugh about it. The other situation that is going on focuses on Dr. Cox. Dr. Cox is having his own dilemma because he needs to fire someone from the kitchen staff. All of the employees have a very pathetic stories that make it that much harder to choose who to fire. Dr. Cox decides it's easiest to fire Kenny, who was the most recently employed. Kenny, played by Clay Aiken, just so happens to be one of the nicest people in the hospital. When we are taken into the multi-camera world, a talent show just so happens to be going on. The grand prize is around $26,000, the amount of money that needs to be budgeted, and the average income of a kitchen worker. Of course, everything works out for the better, and Kenny wins with his amazing voice. Reality snaps back in, though, when Charles James dies and Kenny has to be fired. This episode really shows the difference between multi-camera and single camera. Not only how they are shot, but how the material in the show differs. Multi-camera shows tend to be lighter and not really grasp the gravity of situations of death and losing your job. Instead, they make a joke of it, and everyone lives happily ever after, no matter what the situation really is. Whereas the single camera mode is much edgier and darker, like this episode of Scrubs and most episodes of Scrubs, maybe due to the creative control a director has when shooting with a single camera. This may also attribute to the ratings of a single camera show. Masses may tend to shy away from the dark comedy that is Scrubs, and then tune into a show that is more happy-go-lucky, which is associated with a multi-camera show, such as a show like Friends. Also, these single-camera shows are much more critically acclaimed because they can appreciate the reality of the shows that uses the single cameras. When we switch into the single-camera mode in Scrubs, not only is it the content that changes, it is also the lighting and the costuming that changes. The lighting becomes much brighter, and the clothing becomes much more revealing, which just shows how much everything can change from single camera to multi-camera. Thank you.